Hello, everyone. It's a really great honor to participate in this conference, as well as a great opportunity to talk with you. It is a difficult time now. It's very challenging to prepare some specific and clear messages since the situation changes very, very quickly every morning, but I'll try. And so my first question is, if a lie is repeated 1,000 times, does it become the truth? This is one of the key questions in the fight against disinformation. Disinformation strategy rely on the long-term systematic effort to distort reality. Unfortunately, under the influence of disinformation, the truth can be manipulated, reshaped, and take multiple shades and interpretation. But countering the disinformation and fact-checking offer a way how to fight back. And today, I'll try to share my experience and experience of my organization that I represented. I mean, Stop Fake, because yes, of course, a lot of different aspects I represented, but today I'll try to talk about fact-checking and verification information. So, first of all, I would like to mention that war in Ukraine began in 2014 when 7% of Ukraine's territory in Donbass and Crimea were occupied by Russia, and we quickly realized and understood the systematic and aggressive lies of Russia propaganda had devastating objective. And for 10 years, we have been preparing for the new stage of this war. Now, it's just a next step of this war. The organization I represented, Stop Fake, was founded in 2014 by lecturers and students of Mogila School of Journalism, and it's also a very interesting process because how we can combine different activities, and professional fact-checking organization and academic. The Stop Fake team has been conducted daily monitoring of Russia and English language media for suspicious content, and we have been developed methodology for analyzing and verifying information while fostering a professional community of fact-checkers in Ukraine. And our team was among the first in Ukraine and also in Central Europe, I absolutely sure, to implement a professional tool for information verification. So it was 10 years ago, 2014. The main objectives of Stop Fake team has been to demonstrate that Russia disinformation is systematic strategy of Russia government. It's just not misinformation or some mistake or something else. It's systematic approach of Russia government. And Stop Fake team not only refute fake news, but also creates a propaganda archive and database which we continue to analyze now. In February 2020, Stop Fake became a member of International Fact-Checking Network, IFCN, joined community of organization commitment transparency and accuracy and ethical fact-checking standards. Just a month later, Stop Fake became Meta's global third-party fact-checking partners for Ukraine, and now we verify information on Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and also verify information for different platforms because we also is a partner of Google company. Over the years, Stop Fake has debunked more than 10,000 fake stories, exploiting manipulation and misinformation that sought to distort reality. Today, our content is available in 14 languages, ensures that the truth reach audience across the globe. Finally, very important moment that I would like to mention that Interview's annual survey of the media consumption habit in Ukraine showed that 18% of Ukrainians regularly use our website to check news, to verify information. It means that Stop Fake website now like a huge media outlet. Our approach is built on the MET method, monitoring, archiving, and debunking, a systematic strategy that allows use to expose and counter false narrative effectively. Among our activities, regular monitoring, as I mentioned before, of user analysis and refutation of fake news and disinformation, analysis of phenomenal Kremlin propaganda in all aspects and forms, training and educational program regarding the verification information, digital tools, and so on, development of media literacy and conducted media research. I think it's really very interesting topic how we can communicate and build our audience, and I think the media literacy, this is a very, very important key how we can be alternative platform for our huge audience, and especially for journalism, it's really very interesting topic how to build our audience, how to work with different type of audience and communicate. How we verify information in general, absolutely typical way, searching for confirmation in open source, looking for possible weaknesses, requesting clarification from official, and of course researching information about author, some source, analyzing photo and video if available. But what is key to successful work? And this is, for me, it's very, very important point, because we have to build a network of partners in advance before crisis or war started. It's really very important, because I always receive a question, so tell me how you verify information during the war, is it difficult or not? And my answer is yes, because we have been prepared, and we have community, and we have network, journalists, civil society activists, military personnel, educator, and government representatives, and we created that network before the war. And this is very, very important. Yes, of course, we can verify information, we can explain what is true, what is false, but it's very important very quickly receive information and very quickly spread our debunking material. I would like to show you very, very significant example. Russia First channel reported that Ukrainian citizens massively became refugees in Russia. As a confirmation, the channel showed pictures, a car lining up near the Ukraine-Russia border. But the news showed no real footage of refugees, only old archived video. This was really very suspicious, and we decided to check this information, and we contacted the Russia Federation Migration Service and asked about the actual number Ukrainian refugees. They have received application only 5 Ukrainian citizens. But during our phone conversation, the representative admitted that some time ago they have been instructed to prepare an expected more large wave of refugees. And they had already bought tent, some cooking equipment, and so on and so on. The refugees from Ukraine only started arriving in Russia later, after Russia-backed force launched armed attack in Donetsk and Lugansk, and you might guess that it was one of the first articles on our website in 2014. But what is very, very important here, because yes, of course, yesterday we talked a lot about database, about digital instrument, how to collect some data and verify information, but the very, very important sometimes just talk with ordinary people to understand the context, to understand the cultural, historical, local situation. It's most important than sometimes collecting some data. So the next examples, and here I would like to ask you, please take a close look here. What do you think of these pictures? Microphones, yes, thank you very much. The photo shows Eduard Basurin, one of the commander of the so-called DPR People's Militia. For a long time, he was spokesman for the organization and held daily briefing for journalism in Donetsk. In real, nothing interesting happened in this briefing, and Basurin would read some statistic and some ordinary information about current event, and this daily event attracted little interesting for journalism, and only local Donetsk TV channel come to this briefing. But suddenly, we saw that journalists from many Central Russian media outlets came to this briefing. Why? What is the real? And also, among this journalism, the crew was a crew member that had experience covering the military conflict in different parts of the war. And just few days later, the DPR army launched of offensive against Avdiivka. It's 2017. So, even such minor details provide information about the enemy's intention, and fact-checking and verification information can help us to predict some event. Really, fact-checking is a tool of strategic communication, and I also communicate with my colleague from different State Department and representative from strategic communication services. And I always say that fact-checking, professional fact-checking and verification information, it's really very important tools to predict some event. So, for maximum effectiveness, it is crucial for fact-checker to act promptly, utilize all methods and tools of verifying information, both digital and traditional media, personal communicate with witnesses, and pay attention to the detail and identify pattern and repetition in story, detect a fundamental narrative. And here I would like to talk about the narrative intelligence, because it's also one of the very important part of our work, our activities. And narrative intelligence involves the capacity to recognize pattern and structure in story, to identify the central themes and characters, and to use this information to better decision making. Also, narrative intelligence can help us to understand the future event and can help us to predict something. In 2023, analysts at StopFake conducted a study into European Union narrative through Russia-Ukrainian war, and we analyzed and all debunk claim from StopFake from 2014 to 2023, and selected 6,064 materials related to European country and West. And this claim were categorized by narratives and divided into two categories, before and after Russia's full-scale invasion. And this analysis shows how disinformation narrative changed over the time. Among the narratives before Russia's full-scale invasion on Ukraine, of course, I think it's very well-known information. Ukraine is a failed state, decline Western support of Ukraine, fake legalization of annexation of Crimea and the occupation of Donbass, European Union as an aggressor, Ukraine as a fascist state, European Union controls Ukraine, and so on and so on. And since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the map of narratives has been changing somewhat. It was obvious that military and political events have influenced the semantic emphasis of the previous topic and added new meaning to them. Agnieszka yesterday mentioned very good phrase that, yeah, we have basic narrative, global narrative, and some messages. It's very interesting to analyze and compare these messages with the basic global narratives. And so military aid to Ukraine is the most represented narrative in the information space in the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The topic of Ukrainian refugees in the European Union is most represented in the database. Analysis of database selected debunking claims of which country were involved in disinformation, in what narrative, and how frequently is quite revealed. And here we can see the top country that mentioned in Russia disinformation and in our database. Number 1, Poland, Germany, United Kingdom, France, and Italy. Many fakes and disinformation stories are linked Canada, of course. Russia propaganda skillfully integrates the messages into current topic and use. The majority of false reports concern Canada's Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland, who who is frequently discredited due to the Ukrainian heritage. And of course, additionally, a recent report in the information space has been connected to President Trump's statement about the potential takeover of Canada with Ukraine, seems also appearing in the discourse. I would like to show you one example. Pro-Russia sources claim that Ukrainian diaspora in Canada called for a referendum on joining the United States, and they attributed this to Steve Tkachuk, supposedly to head of the Ukrainian association in Toronto. In real, no such person or organization exists, but this fake story is spread by pro-Russia information channel and that regularly push information about Ukraine. So the main characteristic of Russia disinformation now, first of all, from centralized to decentralized propaganda, while RT and Sputnik remain active. Telegram, where 70% of Ukrainians get news, TikTok and fringe media now plays a key role in spreading targeted disinformation. The next rise of AI and deepfake, exploiting Western media and target international audience and attacked fact-checkers and media, and Russia discredit fact-checkers, creates a fake fact-checking organization and benefit from a shift in social media policies, making disinformation hardest to combat. Yesterday, we also talked about the challenges for fact-checkers today. So months ago, what are the main challenges our organization is faced today? A month ago, I would say it was security, as we work on a war zone and male colleague as the fact-checkers at the front line. It's our reality. We work online and my colleagues in the front line. But today, it is a challenging geopolitical process, the discreditation of role of fact-checkers and combating disinformation and global pressure, of course. We are entering an era, a great challenges for journalism and freedom of speech in general, but I hope we will talk about it later, and thank you very much for your attention.